A few months ago, the incredible musical Les Miserables was playing at the Kravis. One of my favorite musicals. I, of course, went to see it. Big surprise, it wasn't my first time seeing it, or my second, or actually my third, for that matter. And of course, it did not disappoint. Even if you've never seen it before or haven't seen the movie based on it, I bet you've heard one of the songs, "Do You Hear the People Sing?" A rousing chorus sung by the French people against their oppressive government. The words unite with that march-like beat to swell the heart in solidarity with these people. Do you hear the people sing, singing the songs of angry men? It is the music of a people who will not be slaves again. Is it stuck in your head yet? There you go. Oh, there we go. Let that carry you through the rest of the sermon. Obviously, the historical setting, that of the French Revolution, might not be at the forefront of our minds when singing along in a darkened theater. By the way, don't sing along in a darkened theater. Just keep your mouth shut and let them do the singing. But the urge for the little guy, the underdog, to overcome is a regular feature in so many storylines. We feel connected to them, and we empathize with their struggle. We are one in the quest for revolutionary change, at least when it's portrayed on the stage or on the screen. It has a captivating allure that things can be different. Today's first reading from Acts recounts Paul and Silas being arrested and thrown into jail before a miraculous earthquake frees them. The story plays on themes of freedom and oppression, but without really giving us a clear resolution by the end. Despite its lack of closure, it is Paul's perspective on two of the other characters and his actions toward them that makes this an interesting lens through which to see the gospel. Paul and Silas were on their missionary journey when they come into an area that is primarily Roman. It's called a Roman colony. There was a girl who was enslaved that kept following them around. This girl, however, was not just some ordinary person, but she was someone who was possessed by a spirit. She keeps calling out after them, "These men are slaves of the Most High God, offering a way of salvation." Almost as if offering free marketing for them, she does this for many days in a row. But Paul is not amused. Like a child on a road trip who asks, "Are we there yet?" one too many times, Paul finally snaps and commands the unclean spirit to come out of the girl. The spirit immediately leaves her, and she leaves them alone. The problem is that her owners are now quite upset because she is no longer able to make money from her fortune-telling abilities that the Spirit enabled her to do. So the owners grab Paul and Silas. They have them arrested, beaten, and thrown into jail. Now we have to pause here in our story because we've come across our first little conundrum. Now it's great that Paul has exorcised this girl. She is now free from her demonic possession, and that's a good thing, right? He has granted her spiritual freedom. Do you hear the people sing? But the problem is that he has done nothing about her physical freedom. She remains the property of her owners, and her place in life will actually probably be far worse now because she doesn't have a way to bring in income. Not only is she a slave, now she's a worthless slave. Have Paul's actions been good for this girl, or has he forgotten her as an annoyance that has now disappeared? The story quickly pivots to the jail cell. That night, Paul and the guys are in their cells singing hymns and praying to God. You know, normal jail stuff. And a miraculous earthquake comes and shakes open the doors and loosens their shackles. They are free. They go to run out of the jail, but they see this jailkeeper, who upon realizing what has happened, is ready to kill himself out of fear that the prisoners have escaped on his watch. So instead of fleeing and letting the chips fall where they might, Paul and the other prisoners, all of whom are legitimately freed at this point, stay put voluntarily. Don't harm yourself, Paul says. And with that, the jailer's trust has been earned. He asks what he must do to be saved, to which Paul responds, "Believe on the Lord Jesus." Believing, the jailer opens his home, washes their wounds, and is baptized. Paul's treatment of this jailer provides a very different story. He sees the jailer, afraid and about to inflict self-harm. He sees him through the commotion of the disaster. Paul sees him through the excitement and promise of freedom. He sees him as the power dynamic inverts. The jailer is now the one who will fall victim to his own empire, where he once enjoyed power and privilege. In the blink of an eye, the jailer goes from the top all the way to the bottom. But Paul sees him and stops. They are one. How often are we like Paul, seeing one person while forgetting another? Very recently, as in this week recently, we have been inundated with people experiencing poverty and homelessness. Literally in a 48-hour period this week, I had 7 people asking us for assistance in one form or another. Everyone from one of my regular homeless gentlemen who simply wants a couple of Publix cards and a bus pass, gratefully receives them, to a woman and child about to be evicted from their out-of-state apartment. While each of their stories is unique and certainly heartbreaking and worth telling, I have been asking myself and asking God, what is going on? From a statistical perspective, we average about 1 person a week. So to have 7 in 2 days is way out of the norm. And what I realized from this week is that I actually see each of these people differently. Some of them I will bend over backwards to help, while others I might try to move along very quickly. My attention to some is particularly short when I've got a million things to do, or when I'm in the middle of something, or when their problems just seem so overwhelming that I feel powerless. I know that you'll forgive me when out of frustration and exhaustion, I just throw up my hands and move on. Who am I to change anything? Jesus says in Luke, quoting Isaiah, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free." And today, Jesus says, "As you, Father, are in me and I am in you, may they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me." I wish I could just give us an incredible remedy for these problems. I wish I could come up with a program or a process that would work. I even wish that I could say, if we all just wrote a check today, we could solve poverty and homelessness forever. If I could do that, even to the discretionary fund or to whatever program we could come up with, I would start to ride all over Palm Beach County asking for donations and money so that this program would fly. But let's face it, we can barely get our heads around the root causes of oppression and poverty, let alone allow our hearts to break repeatedly with each new story. The cycles of homelessness and poverty and mental illness are all around us. We can shut it out. We can tune it out. We can even hire someone to placate the needs just long enough so that we might have a few more moments of ignorant bliss. We do all of these things, and yet Jesus' words come back time and time again. Proclaim good news to the poor. Do you hear the people sing? What Paul's arrest, imprisonment, and freedom share in common with my predicament of homelessness and poverty is this: neither story is fully resolved. It's really frustrating, actually. That oppressive Roman Empire that allows an innocent girl to remain enslaved, that Roman Empire that arrests 2 men for transgressing their cultural and ethnic identities, that Roman Empire that perpetuates a system of such retributive violence that even a correctional officer would rather take his life than face the repercussions for a natural disaster, yes, that Roman Empire still operates at the end of our story. Even Paul remains firmly ensconced in the system of empire, even as he is being thrown into its very prison. There is no revolution. There is no emergence of the people. There is no utopia to be found here. And so, we too, with our friends in poverty and homelessness, find ourselves at a bit of a loss. We might be able to provide something for them to eat today. We might effectively shelter them for a short period of time, but our systems don't work for everyone. Not our political system, not our economic system, not our medical industry, not our mental health programs. There are people who will always be at the bottom of these infrastructures. And so while revolution sounds all well and good, revolution, a solution for the masses, but I guarantee you that for the majority of us sitting in this room today, revolution would not go very well for us. Because we have earned a luxury that is built on a system that many of us have mastered, at least at some level. And so we're not the ones who need a revolution. Sure, we could use some small changes, a few minor tweaks, so we tell ourselves, but we are not fundamentally poor or held captive or blind. The lost slave girl remains more than just a loose end of a story which refuses to be wrapped up neatly. She is the invisible girl that so many of us miss, even Paul. But we have hope. We do have hope in that Paul sees the jailer. He waits when he could have run. He risks at great cost. He hears him and is united with that man as one at the right time and in the right place. There is hope. But it is only when we are listening to the voices of the poor and the oppressed that we actually hear the voice of Jesus. Failing to hear them, we have stopped hearing the people sing.